What's up everybody, it's your boy Squints here, and today I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to heal your way to the top of Season 4 as a Holy Paladin. Let's get to it! First up, we're going to cover the talents for Holy Paladin that you're going to want to be using in Season 4. And before we get started, all the import codes for these talent builds are going to be in the description below. First thing, I want to cover the class talents that are consistent across both Mythic Plus and Raiding. And specifically, I'm just going to cover the key ones that you should be aware of. Starting off with Avenging Wrath, also known as Wings, and you best be keeping them up. This is a major cooldown that you should be utilizing as much as possible. It increases your damage, your healing, your crit, reduces the holy shot cooldown, judgment generates additional holy power, and holy power spending deals AoE damage. You can freely cast Hammer or Wrath. It's just basically the Paladin God mode, so make sure you're using it. Next up is Blessing of Sacrifice, also known as Sac. I'm not talking about my sack, I'm talking the ability. But anyway, not important. You will cast this ability on a party member to reduce the amount of damage they take by 30%, and you in return will take 100% of the damage that you mitigate. This is a super strong cooldown that you should utilize. Up next is Blessing of Protection, or BOP. This will make a party member or yourself immune to physical damage and harmful effects. Now for one of my personal favorite abilities, Divine Toll. You'll instantly holy shock up to 5 targets, and the ability will prio friendly or enemy depending on who you casted. And last up is Seal of Order. You trigger this passive by casting 3 holy power spenders, and you'll instantly get the buff of Dawn, which will increase the damage or healing of the next holy power spender. And right when that buff drops, you'll get of Dusk, which increases the armor by 10% and holy power generators cooldown 10% faster. And here's your Mythic Plus build. I'm going to highlight a few key talents that you need to be aware of when it comes to healing that really tie together how this spec works. First up is Glimmer of Light. Every time you holy shock a target, whether it's friendly or an enemy, you'll leave a glimmer of light on the target. And every cast of Holy Shock you do on any target will heal or damage the targets affected by Glimmer of Light. And when Glimmer of Light's buff or debuff ends, it will heal or damage the target. Next up is Aura Mastery, and this will empower whatever active aura you currently have on. Resplendent Light is going to make your Holy Light now heal 5 targets. Hand of Divinity will make your next 2 Holy Lights instant cast. They'll also heal for more and cost less mana. Up next is Holy Prism, which is going to be a key thing to be aware of when it comes to your tier set, which we'll be going over later. And if you cast Holy Prism on a friendly target, it'll damage any nearby enemies. And if you cast it on an enemy, you may have guessed it, but it will heal your allies. Another one of my personal favorite talents, Daybreak and Rising Sunlight. Daybreak is going to remove all of your Glimmers of Lights and trigger the removal bonus by 200%. So that's 200% bonus healing and damage. And Rising Sunlight will make your next 3 Holy Shocks cast 2 additional times on the target. Blessing of Summer is a cycling buff, which we'll cover on how best to use it a little bit later. Glorious Dawn gives Holy Shock a 10% chance to reset its cooldown. Awakening is the last talent you need to be aware of, and your Holy Spenders will end up generating 1 stack of Awakening, and at 12 stacks, your next Judgment deals more damage and activates Avenging Wrath for 12 seconds. And who doesn't like a little more wings in their life? I mean, I could eat some buffalo wings right now, but I'm recording this video, so maybe I'll do that later. Now here's an alternative Mythic Plus build that you could use that's going to have a few less buttons and things to kind of keep track of. First up, you're going to swap Resplendent Light or Moment of Compassion. Then you'll swap Hand of Divinity or Divine Favor. Divine Favor is an instant cast that's going to increase the healing of your next Holy Light or Flash of Light, reduces cast time and mana cost. Make sure to always use this on Holy Light though. You'll then swap Blessing of Summer for Merciful Auras. This is just a passive group healing, and it's much easier than trying to manage all those buffs and remembering who you have to put it on. Then you'll drop Tears Deliverance for Inflorescence of the Sunwell. This will give you an additional charge of Infusion of Light. It increases your damage reduction from Greater Judgment and makes every 3rd cast of Holy Light generate more holy power. So again, just another passive that's going to live in the background that's going to benefit you. And for Incorporeal weeks, you will drop Crusader's Reprieve and pick up Turn Evil on your class tree, because of course you're a healer and you got to do everybody's jobs, okay? And now Now on to our raid talents. Your class tree, not a whole lot is going to change. There's a few minor swaps, but nothing major to highlight here. But looking over at your spec tree, there's a few changes here, so let's go over them. For the most part, it's fairly similar, but you're going to drop Holy Prism and pick up Light's Hammer, which is a targetable ground AoE heal and damage, which is going to be key when you see what your tier set is this season, coming up in just a moment. Up next, you'll pick up Barrier of Faith, and this will place an absorb shield on an ally, and for the next 24 seconds, 25% of the healing from Flash of Light, Holy Light, or Holy Shock increases the amount absorbed. And lastly, you'll be grabbing Boundless Salvation, which will extend Tier's Deliverance on yourself for up to 40 seconds. And this is done by casting Holy Shock, Flash of Light, and Holy Light on other players. And again, here is an alternative build if you want a few less buttons to manage and keep track of. And with that, you have all the talent trees and the key things to know about them for you to be a successful healer. Let's hop on over to your rotation and exactly how to heal. First off, let's talk about our tier set and the bonus we're getting. Our 2-piece makes it so Holy Shock's critical strikes heal for 60% more and reduce the cooldown of Holy Prism or Light's Hammer depending on what you have spec. And our 4-piece increases the healing of Light's Hammer and Holy Prism. It also now makes both of those abilities generate more Holy Power. In Light's Hammer case, it will now generate Holy Power every 4 seconds the ability is out. And for Holy Prism, it will generate 1 additional Holy Power if cast on an enemy and 3 if cast on an ally. Now let's talk about how all this comes together in Mythic Plus for you. I've broken all your abilities down into key little categories so you have a clear explanation of how this spec works. First up is your generators. Holy Power is an important thing to be spending during Mythic Plus because you're going to be generating a lot of it since you will be dealing damage. And here are all your key generators. Make sure to be using them. Crusader Strike, Judgment, and Hammer's Wrath, you're going to be using those pretty actively just on your enemies, whereas Holy Shock and Holy Prism, you may be casting those on your party, but you will also find yourself casting those on enemy targets as well. Now, since we covered our generators, let's talk about our spenders a little bit here. Your main spender in Mythic Plus is going to be Shield of the Righteous. This deals AoE damage and you're going to be doing a lot of it. You should always prioritize spending your Holy Power on this ability. But of course, when it's needed, make sure to use Word of Glory to get some spot heals out, especially on those targets during hectic fights where they may be standing and shit. We all know that's gonna happen. Now, how exactly will you be healing? Well, here's a little breakdown for you. Holy Shock is a great spot heal and you should always be using it on your party when they take some random damage. Make sure to spread your glimmers throughout your party and keep some of those buffs active and spread them on your targets, of course, because as you use Holy Shock, it's going to heal and damage everybody. Flash of Light, you're always going to want to use with Infusion of Light so that it's empowered. And again, this is a great spot heal. Now for Holy Light, you're always going to want to try and use this with Hand of Divinity or Divine Favor. Now when it comes to damage, here's exactly what you need to kind of keep in the back of your mind. From top to bottom, these are the most crucial buttons to be hitting to deal damage throughout the dungeon. I place Holy Shock towards the bottom here because you're going to end up using it as a spot heal. But if no one's taking damage and I can do it, I will gladly do so. And when it comes to Consecrate, make sure you're just keeping it active as much as possible because it's going to be passive damage for you while you're hanging out in melee. And now if you want to deal big damage, here's a combo that you have to make use of in giant AoE pulls. And make sure you try to have some glimmers active on enemies or party members before doing this combo. First, you're going to Daybreak, and then you're going to use Divine Toll on your enemies to get 5 glimmers out on them. From there, you're going to have 3 Holy Shocks ready to double Holy Shock, and you're probably anticipating what to do next. Holy Shock those enemies, and you're going to see your DPS skyrocket. But don't worry, you are a healer, so you won't be topping the charts, but we should definitely talk about some other healing options for you. First up is how do you heal your group when you guys took a bunch of damage? Your quick and easy one to go to for some light AoE damage is going to be Holy Prism. Make sure you cast it on the enemy so it heals your allies. This is especially strong this season thanks to our tier. Daybreak is another great way of healing your party up quickly, but it works best if you already have glimmers up on your party because Daybreak's going to remove them and get them instantly healed. Hence why it's important to use Holy Shock as a spot heal on your party if they end up taking some damage. Divine Toll is a great way to heal up your party. Make sure to cast it on a friendly and you're gonna Holy Shock everybody. And last is Tier's Deliverance, which is a huge huge AoE heal that you need to make sure you capitalize and save for when massive AoE damage is coming out. Now let's talk about some really strong healing combos for you to abuse. First up, if big AoE damage goes out, make sure to hit your party with the Daybreak. You should already have Glimmers of Light active on some of them, so you will instantly heal all those players, and then follow up with a Divine Toll. Next, you'll always want to use Hand of Divinity before using Tears Deliverance. Hand of Divinity is going to increase the healing of your Holy Lights, and you're gonna want to follow up immediately after you cast Hand of Divinity and Tears Deliverance and shoot some empowered instant Holy Lights to heal up your entire group, because our Holy Light will affect up to 5 friendly targets. And last up, as mentioned before, you will have Divine Favor, and you can combo that into a Holy Light for a quick spot heal for anyone that may need it. Now, things are a little different in Raid, but let's talk about that. Starting off once again with our generators, and the list is much shorter, and that is because you are not prioritizing dealing damage and generating holy power with damage abilities like you are in Mythic Plus. And that is just because holy power is kind of irrelevant in this build for raid content. So to generate holy power, you'll just be using your Holy Shock and Light's Hammer. And when it comes to the spot healing players, not a whole lot actually changes here, except you'll now have Barrier of Faith. This ability is great to throw on targets that are about to take a ton of damage to help reduce and mitigate that damage with an Absorb Shield. Try to be proactive and get it on as many targets as you can over the course of a fight, especially because the Absorb is increased as you continue to heal players. Now for group healing, again, not a lot of changes, except you'll be using Light's Hammer, and you'll probably mainly be using this around your melee players when big heavy AoE damage is coming out. And for holy power spenders, you're going to want to use Light of Dawn and Word of Glory. Light of Dawn to AoE heal and Word of Glory to spot heal. But you're only going to want to use those during of dusk and dawn windows, which don't forget is triggered by casting 3 holy power generators like Holy Shock or Light's Hammer. And this can be a really tricky thing to keep track of, so I recommend finding a weak aura that works best for you. I recommend Luxos's class weak auras. They're great, and I honestly use them on all my classes. Now when it comes to damage, you'll be using Holy Shock, and you're going to want to use Hammer or Wrath whenever you can. Other than that, you're just going to melee and drop your concentrate. Now abilities below the red line you should only use if all your Holy Shocks are on cooldown, Flash of Light with Infusion of Light is not available, and you have no of Dawn or Dusk buffs active. If any of that is true, you should not click those buttons. And once again, for your healing combos, you'll have Daybreak and Divine Toll. During raid, you're probably frequently going to have Glimmers of Light already active on a bunch of friendly targets from sending out some spot heals. So if you do, make sure to Daybreak first and then follow up with Divine Toll. And of course, we're still going to have Hand of Divinity into a Tears Deliverance, followed up by using your Holy Lights, which are going to now increase Tears Deliverance uptime on yourself by 16 seconds almost instantly. Now we got to talk about some extra spice the Paladin brings to the table, and that's our utilities, cooldowns, crowd control, and all that fun jazz, and anything that you're probably like, yeah boy, I think you missed some shit. It's all gonna happen right meow. First up is defensives. Divine Shield will grant you immunity. Y'all know it, and if you ain't a Paladin, y'all hate it. It's our bubble, and we love it. Bubble boys for life. Besides that, we also have Divine Protection, which is our personal defensive that reduces all damage taken by 20%. Now for our party, we have Blessing of Sacrifice. You know I like smacking everybody with a sack. Then we also have Blessing of Protection. Don't forget to use it, especially to remove harmful effects from players. And then one of my favorite combos to use is Aura Mastery and Devotion Aura, which will give the entire party a 12% damage reduction, and make sure you use this when big group damage is about to come out. Now for cooldowns, don't forget about your wings. Is God mode, and you should be using it all the damn time. But we also have Lay on Hands, which is a big ol' heal. It heals a target for 100% of your HP. When it comes to crowd control, we offer a little bit, but you're really only gonna typically be worrying about this in the Mythic Plus environment. You have Rebuke for your interrupt, you have Hammer of Justice for a stun, and then we have Dazzling Light like the Weekend, which is gonna disorient everybody. And now we have all our blessings, purple being summer, orange being autumn, blue being winter, and green being spring. So for summer, you are not going to want to use that basically on any pet class. It's pretty much that simple. Just don't. And the classes that are going to benefit from it the most are going to be rogues, ret paladins, arcane and fire mages, devo evokers, and druids. And towards the bottom of that list is enhancement shamans or frost death knights. And what this does is it gives their attacks a 40% chance to deal 20% additional damage as holy. And if you're wondering why is that not good on pet classes, well, it's because the pets don't benefit from it. And right after you use summer, you're gonna go right into autumn. Autumn buffs the target, allowing cooldowns to recover 30% faster. You will oftentimes probably be using this on yourself. It's good to use on a damage class that heavily relies on cooldowns like fire mage, or why if you're in a raid and a healer just used all their big cooldowns, it's also useful to drop on them. And would you like to build a snowman? Because now it's winter, and with winter you can restore 15% of mana over time, and you will probably like to keep that to yourself, or once again give it to one of your healers in raid right after they just pumped out a bunch of healing. Spring though is going to increase healing done by 15% and healing received by 30%. Now this buff in Mythic Plus you're probably going to be using on yourself all the time, but in raid you may be using this on the healer that is about to pop all their cooldowns in the fight. When it comes to beacons in raid, you're going to either want to place them on melee or ranged targets. Typically you're going to place both on ranged targets so that you can benefit from your mastery healing increase based on the proximity you are to the targets you're healing. And since beacon triggers that mastery, you're most commonly going to want to keep it on ranged players because you're going to find yourself always in melee. And you may want to put it on a melee player if your raid ends up getting split up into two groups on different parts of the room or platform depending on the boss fight. And when it comes to Mythic Plus, you're going to want to put it on the squishy peep because everybody's always going to be close to you and mastery is not one of your key stats in Mythic Plus. But let's talk about stats and things. So your stat priority in Mythic Plus is going to be item level early on. Item level trumps everything. Main stat is the best, but when it comes down to secondary stats, you are going to prioritize crit over haste. And when it comes to raid, you're going to prioritize mastery over haste. For your vial, you're going to use Vial of Corrupting Rage to get bonus crit because it's so damn good. Of course, you'll use your Elemental Potion of Ultimate Power. And then for your potions that are just on a 5-minute cooldown, you can either use Dreamwalker's Healing Potion or Aerated Mana Potion. Again, depending on just what you need in the scenario. Always use cookies or things like that before you end up using one of these potions because you never know if you're going to need healing or mana first. And then for food, you're always going to want the banquet. Eat up, it's a feast. And for enchants, this is everything you're going to want. These are all the enchants you want. Take a screenshot, screen grab, mental note, grab your notepad, open up Notion, whatever the hell you want to do. These are the enchants you want that you're going to need. And if you have not played Dragonflight at all and you're hopping in because War Within looks freaking awesome and you're like, hey, Squints, where the hell do I get that helm enchant? Hey, I'm not going to tell you, but you have to go in to the latest raid, which is a Mirdrasil, and you'll get a quest in there and you would have to clear LFR maybe, I don't know, 1.5 times and you get this helm enchant. Or you can just, you know, do it on normal, heroic, mythic, whatever you want to do it on, but the helm enchant comes from a quest inside of there that you have to complete. And last of all, here are your gems. You're going to want to use one inscribed Illimited Diamond, and then you're going to want to use Sensei's Alex Strazite. And that is all, folks. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. If you have any questions, comments, or tips and tricks you would like to share about Holy Paladin, make sure to drop those in the comments below or come join us on Discord. We have a growing community on Discord, and that is also a great place where you can find out if I am live, either on Twitch, YouTube, or Kick, playing my Holy Paladin. You should most definitely come and hang out with us there. And of course, don't forget to punch that like button, kiss that subscribe button, and tickle my bell to stay up to date with everything that's coming out of the channel because I have a lot coming and you're not going to want to miss it. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.